Hello, warriors. It's Bebe here with another episode on the corner. Today's episode is loud. I think, honestly, every single episode we have in this corner series is loud. So I guess I'm just going to give a brief overview as to what to expect on this particular episode, which from the title, as you can see, very self-explanatory. I will have to say that the silencing of my voice, the silencing of who I am, my authentic being, it didn't just start just at the point where I was escaping the marriage, which I have to admit, it's even the things that happened there certainly, took me by surprise. But I think in order to make this episode, flow better, I think we'll start from, my impressions from meeting this family to, how things were while I was still married and, somewhat tethered to this family. And then, of course, how everything then just imploded in on itself, upon my escape from the abusive marriage that I was in and everything this family did to further harm and, silence. So, as usual, I have Toro here, who's going to be guiding me through asking questions and helping me get my story out better. And so, sit back, relax, and let's get into it.
Hi warriors, Toro here offline, at the corner, extracting the tea, facilitating and guiding the conversation for y'all. So I guess maybe to start with, what would you say was your, while you were within the family, when you initially met them and then kind of joined the family via marriage, what were your first impressions? And then how would you say how would you describe your role within the family if you were looking through the eyes, during the time that you were in there?
I think that is quite the loaded question. In order for me to answer this question, I do feel I have to give some context. So I'll start with my impressions on meeting them for the first time. Now, I'm not going to be on some hateration tip and be like, oh, they were trash, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to use the eyes in which I see them now to describe how I felt when I first met them. So my initial reaction was, okay, I think this is a very traditional kind of family, the kinds that, daddy is this kind of scary, father figure type situation, and then the whole family revolves around his mood. That was the impression that I got. And for the most part, I actually felt empathy for them. I felt, the mom there, who the name we are calling her. I'm sorry guys, we're going to have to enter into some petty here, but her name is TOLOTOLO on this series. I'm sorry guys, I do have to. Here's the thing. In that, yes, I'm being petty, but these names are well deserved. Now, you know how we refer to women who have bought into their own oppression as like birds, who would literally throw another woman under the bus, step on her, break her head, just to remain in her oppression, just to maintain the image. Do you get what I mean? So there are different flavors of birdery going on here. And for those of you who listen to Authenticity Warrior podcast, you are familiar with the name PEPEYE. PEPEYE in Yoruba means duck. So the one with the spout mouth, everything, that is Paulinus's older sister. Paulinus's mom is what's referred to as TOLOTOLO, which in Yoruba means turkey. You know that turkey ass bird. I'm sorry, this is not funny. With the neck, the gross neck, the everything, just flapping about, doing the most. Then we have the one that we call pigeon in Yoruba, which is EYELE. That is the name I've decided to give the youngest sister.
Formerly known as Junior PEPEYE.
Oh yeah, on the podcast we refer to her as Junior Pepe, but I felt she deserved her own particular name, which is EYELE, basically a house bird, basically a basic bee. I'm sorry to say, but pigeon is her own and it's EYELE. So now that we've established all the characters here, we have Paulinus, who is the abuser ex that I was married to. We have TOLOTOLO, we have PEPEYE, and we have EYELE. I think it's only fair to refer to Paulinus' dad as Senior Paulinus. But all of this to say is that yes, I am being petty on this particular episode, and that is my rights, actually. And what are the Tabitha? That is my business, okay? That is my business. So you can take it for the entertainment value that it is. You can be upset, you can be whatever, you can be like, that's a little too petty, but this is the way I am feeling it in my spirit, so that's that. So now that we've established the characters in this particular episode, I will say that on meeting this flock of the family, initially I wasn't too put off by the traditional setup that I encountered there. I say this all the time, my sister too, that I came from a more liberal background, right? All this whole running, scared, screaming from daddy, everybody, be silent. You can't breathe wrong. You can't behave wrong. You can't sit wrong. You can't say anything wrong. If not, the fool. So I wasn't used to that, but I stepped into this situation noticing that this was the case. Now, I wasn't too put off because I do know that there are some people, I have friends, I know that that's just, you can't choose your family. It is what it is. So I wasn't too put off. I just felt, it's just their family setup. Another thing that stuck out to me was the closeness of their bond, which, give it to them or not, enmeshed families, they do have a bond, and that cannot be taken from them either. Later on, you will see that it is also a toxic bond, but that is just what the eyes that I used to see at that time. I felt, they're a close-knit family. They seem to move together as one, blah, blah, blah. Which, coming from where I was coming from, I came from a more, I'll say, independent family where there was hyper independence amongst all of us, which was also a trauma response, which is another topic altogether, but there was a lot of hyper independence in my family that I felt we were now then lacking the closeness, that I felt I had spotted in this family. And so to me, it felt like, this was a good thing, right? So that the image of them being a close-knit traditional family stood honestly the test of time. That was always my experience with them from the moment I met them up until when I was escaping the marriage. So that was that. But over the years, the more I stayed close to the family, the more I saw things that, oh my God, like things aren't quite as they seem. The things that I felt were endearing towards them, I now started to see the dark side of. So certain things that I encountered in the time that I was married was the infighting, the throwing one sibling under the bus, trying to gain favor or, love or whatever from one parent or the other. I wasn't used to that. To me, it seemed like the kind of thing that you probably did when you were really, really young, like when you were kids, when, maybe if mommy wants to beat somebody, you run and go and get the cane kind of thing. But it seemed to me that, most people should have outgrown that, but it was very scary to me seeing grown ass figures. These people are like adults, playing those kinds of games. It seemed diabolical to me. It seemed very scary to me, actually. Or the triangulating that I saw again, I mentioned the fact that their father figure is a very scary kind of character, and the Tolotolo character spent a lot of time dumping on not just her children, but on me too. Pouring all her sorrows, all her angst, all her dissatisfaction about her marriage, about the man, on everybody. And people use that information to play games as well. So I was always very, very cautious in how I was moving around in this family, because I felt like there was no what there really was no actual loyalty here. It felt like people were using information. Like it felt like, I don't know if you guys have watched Succession, but that's what it felt like to me. Just, are we a family or are we not a family? On one hand, we behave like we're a family, but on the other hand, somebody will actually stab you in the back here. And thank God we're not in medieval times where people were literally pouring poison inside people's cups. But honestly, even now, I'm not sure I can put it past this family anyways. But all of that was just so crazy to me. So I tried to operate with caution amongst this family. Unfortunately, I had paired up with the EYELE character because I felt she was really young. I felt like she was often scapegoated in this family. I felt she was very misunderstood. So I tried to befriend her. I drew close to her. And, we became very close, I have to admit. And for those of you who listen to the podcast, you remember that I said that, even as I was escaping this marriage, I was just thinking about her, about, their youngest brother. And oh my God, like, I really care for them. I want to make sure I maintain ties, with them and all of that. I'm going to make sure that I, carry them along. I was not expecting the betrayal that I received, especially from this EYELE character. So I've said all of this to say that, God, I feel like this was a long-winded response to your question, but there were so many things that were blaring red flags with this family. But I didn't pick up on them on meeting them. It was as I continued to remain in the marriage that I saw that the red flags were blaring. And I kept on trying to comport myself in a way that I wouldn't get shanked by any of these people. It's unfortunate that even when I was being abused in the hands of my ex, some of which they were witnesses to, it was upsetting that they kept on finding ways to blame me for the abuse and kept on trying to gaslight me as if I was the problem, when these people are well aware of his bad character, his raging, his anger, his misbehavior. They are even victims of it too. But they were so invested in me not leaving this man that they were ready to gaslight me into eternity and keep me trapped here in this relationship. So I'm now not surprised that when I found the courage and the strength to escape this marriage the way that they behaved, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, you answered the question actually comprehensively, and you kind of touched on what I was just about to segue into, which is now looking back, seeing how glaring, blatant, and extreme the abuse was. What are your thoughts on the conduct of his family members? Do you think that they were aware of it in the sense of for what it was, or are you saying that their own like that's just what's normalized in their family, so they couldn't even pick up on it?
I think it's a bit of both. I think abuse is normalized in their family. And so, again, the birdie behavior, the Tolotolo and PEPEYE and EYELE behavior of, why are you shouting? Now, we are here and we have been enduring all this madness. Who are you to say you will not endure? Do you get what I mean? So again, me, I fear people that have Stockholm syndrome. I've said this over and over again. Because they have bought into their own oppression, they take it very, very personal when you attempt to reject that same oppression. Actually, they will fight you with their lives. To be honest, it's not and that's why it's no surprise to me that, in fact, the people that I had the most problem with, the people that I had the most kini with, are actually the women in this family. Actually, these are people that are supposed to have been natural allies here. But they only wanted to be allies when I was participating in my own abuse. The moment I wanted to jump out, the moment I wanted to call attention and be like, hey, this is not right, this is not okay, they are the ones that fought me to the death to silence me, to shame me, to make it seem as if I'm being ridiculous, to make it seem as if I'm lying, to make it seem as if, hey, am I the only one? How dare I be shouting about my abuse when they are there taking their own? Do you get what I mean? So I think, let me first of all start by saying that, number one, I do not make it a habit to talk about these people. I think I should have even said that in the intro of this video, but I'll say it now. I do not talk about these people. However, when it comes to Authenticity Warrior, I would have to say everything I need to say with my full chest, which is why you can tell that I'm not holding back, I'm being petty, I'm doing whatever, because if you're going to talk about it, you might as well, right? There's no point in, I don't have any respect for these people, I'm not going to pretend like I do. So that's number one. Number two, I think it's important that I start character by character. The senior Paulinus in this family, which is their family patriarch, for the most part, I had no issues with this man at all. If anything, it is because of this man that the abuse that I was enduring in the hands of Paulinus was even a little more tolerable. Because this guy was overextending himself in his generosity and kindness, which right now, in retrospect, I see it all as manipulation. He knew what I was enduring. He saw with his two eyes how I was losing the light in my soul. And he kept on trying to overcompensate for his son's poor treatment of me. I mentioned this on the podcast in terms of, I knew that in the height of the financial abuse I was enduring, I would show up to this man's house. I knew that he would give me money. And that would help me. That would hold me for like a week, a couple days. Do you get what I mean? So that's the role that this man played. So I was not expecting what this man then did to me when I was escaping this marriage, when he now threatened me, when he saw that, the bird characters, the TOLOTOLO character had whispered into his ear that it seems like this girl is no longer going to remain in this marriage. So he then summoned me to a meeting. And in that meeting, he now threatened me that if I didn't remain in the marriage, he was going to take my children away from me. That was a direct threat, word for word, to me. And then mentioning my mother, that there's nothing my mother can do about it to save me if I didn't remain in the marriage. Now, this is somebody that all this while I'd been seeing kindness, generosity, protection from, quote unquote. And at the point where I actually need your protection, sir, he uttered such dastardly words to me. That is, those words, I can never forget them. To say such to a mother. I was disgusted. I was thrown completely. And it was at that point that I saw that guy for what he was. And I can never respect him in this life. Never. So that is his own side, and I'll park him to one side.
Before you park him, I just want to shed just a little bit more context on that. So this man had summoned you to a 4-hour meeting where he berated you, let you know that divorce was not an option and will not be tolerated, and that if push comes to shove, he would, and he didn't even say it like he would come and take, like he used the possessive, like they were his children. He said, I will come there and take my children away. So he didn't even, you as the mother didn't even rate you as, like he sees your children as his possessions.
Me, I was just a brooding hen here, pushing out babies for them. That man had actually told me one day that he expects 7 from me. I tried to laugh it off. The guy wasn't laughing. He said, why are you laughing? I expect 7 from you. So I'm not surprised by the languaging, by the everything. So, yeah, that's basically what happened. And, it is unfortunate that somebody that had positioned themselves and as an ally all these years finally unmasked for me and showed me their true face. But I've taken my L as it is. So I will now gladly park him to one side. It is what it is. The TOLOTOLO character is another one that I felt was somewhat of an ally. Although over the years, her own unmasking had already started to happen. Initially, I felt, oh my God, this woman is being abused. Her husband is so mean to her. He, calls her names. He's so hurtful to her. The one thing she always uses to say is, oh, he has never beat me before. But madam, the words, his actions, his behavior, he's beating you up every single day. But that's whether anybody wants to accept their oppression, that is up to them. But what I noticed from her was the silencing. I would run because Paulinus had made sure that I could not be going to my family with these things. He had been driving a wedge. He had put me in a position where I felt, oh, I had to protect his image with my family. So the only people I could really, really run to were his family. And I didn't even do that a lot. I used to actually suffer in silence a lot. Much of what these people even observed were when the abuse was he was just displaying his abuse for everybody. Not that I even ran to them to go and tell them anything. So, but I noticed that this woman will always show up, probably shortly after Paulinus had gone to go and report to her and say this and say that. And her own was just to be making everything my fault. It's because I'm a feminist. Me too, I don't listen to my husband. She was always throwing me under the bus, even to the point where sometimes Paulinus Sr. would want to even maybe intervene on my behalf. She would be the one telling him that no, that is because I'm a feminist. Me too, I don't listen to my husband. Me too, I'm stubborn, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. I'm lazy, I'm this, I'm that. Like those were her own words, her own rule in all of this. So I had already started to understand her character as an untrustworthy one. And I was very, very careful. I hardly ever shared anything with this woman, actually. But I continue to remain her dumping ground for all the gripes that she has with the world, with her husband, with her children even. I've said this on the podcast that the way she would speak about her children, I used to be very, very concerned that, you can tell when someone has been so abused, so brutalized by the world that it spills out, it bubbles out. They can't even hold it. All their dissatisfaction, all their hurt, all their hatred for the world, they can't even hold it anymore. So I used to be very careful with her, but I remained her dumping ground. It was very disappointing to see this woman clock about, just keep trying to keep me oppressed. And she was heavily invested in making sure that I did not escape this marriage and that I remained there to continue to be Paulinus' scapegoat.
I think the reaction or the way that she handled February 2020 needs to be highlighted here, because this was a serious event where you were abused for hours on end, physically abused, and this is one of the extreme events where you actually went to her.
Yeah, this is actually the only time that I had ever run to her to tell her anything because it was just so bad. And what this woman said to me, because she was not even in the country, she's hardly in the country, over the phone, what she said was, this is too much. She doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want to hear it. Then the next thing she said to me was, you have to grow up. She was actually at this point shouting on the phone, you have to grow up. And this is what being a mother is. This is what being a woman is. You have to hold your home. You have to grow up. That's what she said to me. You have to grow up. And so I just remained silent on the phone, just very shocked by her response. But again, it communicated very clearly to me that here I was telling her these very heavy things. This guy was physically assaulting me, physically abusing me for hours on end, calling me all sorts of nasty, disgusting names, which those of you who've watched The Corner episode 1, That's what I described to her. And her own response to me was, I should grow up. And that is what it means to be a wife and a mother. So again, anything to make sure that the man doesn't, isn't held accountable for his behavior and his action. In the end, one thing, it is always your fault. Those kinds of birds, they are dangerous. Moving on, we'll mention the PEPEYE character now. Sorry to say, I don't really know this bee at all. I don't know her. I had only spent some time with her because when I was pregnant for my third child, I had come to Canada and Paulinus had stashed me in their family basement in Mississauga. That's in the GTA for those who don't know. And the GTA is it means the Greater Toronto area. So they had stashed me there. But even though I was living right inside their family basement, I did not see this person for much of the time that I was there. Occasionally, you do nice things. You bring water for them. They bring water for me. They buy me dinner. That's just what it was. But in that pregnancy, I was barely eating anyway. So our interactions were few and far between. So I don't know this person. I felt there was some goodwill with her because, Paulinus had said he was really close to her. So initially I had tried to establish a relationship with her, but I was getting cold, distant energy. So I don't like to do past myself. So I didn't force anything with her. And for the most part, the relationship had distance. I won't deny and say there were probably some good times sprinkled in between because we didn't even live in the same country. So of course, maybe when she would come to Nigeria or whatever, or I would, travel, when we would see, it would be great times, but we didn't really know each other actually. But funny enough, when February 2020 happened, she was one of the people that I actually called because I said, if you guys are twins, as you people say that you're just a year apart. And this man, it seems like nobody can talk to him. But I felt, maybe you can. You are his sister. You claim to be a Christian. You claim to believe in God. I was expecting a more rational response from her. And to her credit, she actually did tell me to leave the man. She said it with her own words. I have proof. She said it. She said, leave this man. That you're not supposed to stay in this kind of relationship. This is abusive. That is what she said to me. But over, as we moved on from that incident, I don't know who had gotten to her, who had started talking to her, but she started to backtrace on her response. And then she became a suspicious character to me. And I no longer, rated her in that sense. I have to say, I started to just treat her with distance. So I'll move her to one side again too. The last character I'll mention here is the EYELE character, the pigeon, which, like I already mentioned, we were close. This is the one that I can claim and say we were close. I cared for her deeply. I saw her really as my sister, and I stuck my neck out for her so many times because she was scapegoated a lot. And we were close. And honestly, I cannot tell you the reason for her behaviors after I escaped the marriage. I honestly cannot tell you. I don't know. As at the time I was escaping this marriage, I had a great relationship with this girl. The only thing now that I can say in retrospect is that her function was probably to be a double agent. That's the only thing. I feel because the family had noticed I was close with her, had used her to stay close to me so that she could probably be passing on information to them anytime Paulinus messed up. Anytime Paulinus messed up, she probably was around to just gauge whether or not I was still, committed to the marriage or not. Because sometimes I did notice that, she would ask some interesting questions or, or she'll just randomly send me some encouragement that, I know he can be a very tough and scary character, but he doesn't mean it, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like that was her role, probably. But I can't say anything other than to say that we actually had a good enough relationship as at the time I was escaping.
So while you were in the marriage, there was like, I mean, you were kind of getting hints of all these things, but for the most part, you were like naive to really what they were.
I would say the clear picture of everything, it didn't become clear until after I escaped.
Yeah.
Some of the sketchy things I saw, the shady things I saw, I didn't really understand what I was seeing then until I escaped the marriage.
And then at the time of your escape, the time that you were exiting, there was now this, I guess, this full unmasking, that everybody did. So just like you did with the previous question, what are your thoughts on these people's behavior and conduct, when you took a stand for yourself and for your life and for your children and said, we're leaving the marriage and we're no longer available to be Paulinus's victim?
As at the time I was escaping the marriage, my life was in danger, and that is just the simple fact. And thank God I escaped when I did, because that man would have killed me in that marriage. That is also a fact. I'm not debating that with anybody. Coming off of the final rage fest that Paulinus inflicted on me in the middle of the night when I was breastfeeding my baby, my 6-week-old baby, and Paulinus was raging at me in the middle of the night. There was actually no light. So it was dark. I was holding my baby. I had the torch on my phone, and as I was breastfeeding my baby, and this guy was raging, I said, the way this guy is moving, only a monster would touch me now, right now, as I'm breastfeeding my baby. That is what I was using to hold me that night. Because truly, I was afraid. Thankfully, he slammed the door, exited the room. And that morning, I said, this man must not meet me here. It was just that simple. I just knew instinctively, I knew that something was about to happen to me. And the fear of death that was around me, hey, I moved. Bottom line, I escaped, as you guys already know. If you've listened to episode 1 and 2 of Authenticity Warrior, you know the full details of all of that. I escaped this marriage. Senior Paulinus too had threatened me. All of that culminated in the energy that I use. I said, no matter the fear, no matter anything, I am escaping this marriage. I literally stared death down. And I said, even if I die in this pursuit, I am getting out of here. Nobody is ever going to hold me hostage again. So I got out. As you guys know, as we preach on this channel, safety, safety, safety. You don't ever tell your abuser when you are escaping. So I was following safety protocols in keeping myself safe and keeping my children safe. I was not expecting the craziness that these people foisted on my family, on my friends, even the poor help, actually. The nanny that worked at the house, these people, like everything they did, dragging people to police stations, things like that, when I had very clearly in my email, in my exit email to Paulinus, stated, I am leaving this marriage. These are the reasons why I'm leaving, and I will contact you so that we can discuss custody arrangements.
I am safe. The children are safe.
I was very clear about that. For those of you who've listened to Authenticity Warrior, you've heard this email over and over again. The email is clear for any literate person to understand. But these people wanted to show their rasness. That's the only thing that I can say. In pretending like they don't understand simple English. They were more invested in covering their shame, actually, than in actually facing the facts that they know of. Is the man not mad? Let's tell ourselves the truth. To be honest, again, I always say is that honestly, I really, really respect families that can look their children in the eye and know that, oh man, this one is crazy, this one is mad. The man is unhinged. We all know it. They have spent a lifetime cleaning up his messes. They know it. Let's not lie to ourselves. So, I beg. I said, I need time. I will reach out to you. We will discuss custody. Everybody will have their due. Who wants to do this thing alone? I'm not interested in being a single mother. We will all use our hands to raise these children. That was what was going on in my head. But at the same time, I know the mad person I'm running away from. I'm not going to expose myself, right? Bottom line, those of you who listen to the podcast, you know, these people threatened my family. They threatened my father. There's nothing they did not use to try and manipulate, to try and change the narrative, to try and make me the problem. That's when all the rumors of I am like this, I am like that, and she's a member of the LGBTQ community, and she went to a nudist beach, she goes to nude parties, and what else? She's not the mother of her children. She doesn't take care of the children. Like all sorts of nonsense that was just coming out from these people's camp.
Unstable.
Oh, I forgot. She's mentally unstable.
Bra-burning feminist.
Yeah, she's a bra-burning feminist. In fact, let me list this again. These are the things that these people had to say about it. And to be honest, if this is all they could actually gather, that's to just even show you that, again, they were there scraping the bottom of some barrel to try and say something about me because they know their child. They know the guy is unhinged. He is. And if instead of them to help him seek help, they will keep cleaning up his mess. Well, unfortunately for you, the mess that guy is going to put you guys in, the one that you will not be able to clean up, it is still coming. So, and I did not swear for anybody. It is just the pattern. That is just what the research says. So, go and hold the professors. Don't hold me. Anyway, these are the things that these people have to say about me. Number one, I'm an atheist. Number two, I'm a bra-burning feminist. Number three, I'm not the primary caregiver of my children. Number four, what else did they even say again? What's the number?
Mentally.
I'm mentally unstable. And then number five, what was the fifth one? I think that was it. Those were the four pillars that they relied on to tell the whole world about, to call up people that my parents know, to be pouring out their sorrows about those four things. What else did they say? Basically, their court documents, their paperwork, that is what was filled in there. Again, the only reason why I'm speaking about these things is because it is part of authenticity warrior. Like, what do you want? I have to speak about these things, but they are so undignified that, like, I don't even care. Like, okay, all those things that you mentioned, and it doesn't justify the abuse from that abuser. That's number one. Number two, it doesn't mean I'm lying. And you know very well I'm not lying. So why are we doing this dirty dance in trying to avoid our accountability? That's just all I was thinking in all of this, to be honest.
But in actuality, what they were doing is simply running an abuser script, which is DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and an offender.
Exactly. So those four things, they were now trying to paint themselves as the victim. That they are the victim here, actually. If you've listened to Authenticity Warrior, you hear the things I have said this guy put me through. The truth of what that marriage was a deeply abusive one. On every level, on a cellular level, it was abusive. Physical, emotional, psychological, sexual, financial, all forms of abuse. But in their DARVO, okay, Even if I am an atheist, who have I harmed in being an atheist? Even if I am a bra-burning feminist, who have I harmed in being a bra-burning feminist? Even if I am mentally unstable, who have I actually harmed? My psychiatrist had to be dragged out from her office to actually put it out there that, hey, Joe, that is actually not true. She's just in therapy, like any good person invested in their mental health. Simple. The man himself, that in the fifth year of our marriage, confessed to me that he had received a diagnosis of being bipolar. And he only revealed that to me when he was trying to discount therapy because he had seen I was in therapy, and he was like, all these therapists, all they know how to do is to give people diagnosis. That's how one therapist told me I'm bipolar. That is how I found out that this guy had received his diagnosis. So. And, I was saying to myself, I'm like, I feel like I should be able to sue this guy for fraud. Like, what? So, again, what else? What was the last point that they said too? LGBTQ. Okay, even if I am LGBTQ, who have I harmed? Nobody. So, gosh, like the whole thing just tired me self, honestly. I'm not even sure how to move on from this point, to be honest. But I've said all of that to say that this family, instead of them to sit down and let us all just tell ourselves the truth, we'll figure out this custody thing moving forward. Everybody will have their time with the children. We'll raise them as a community, as a family, and we'll all just move on. What really is the big deal? Like, as dastardly, as disgusting, as wretched as this marriage was, the dissolution of it did not need to be this disgusting. But like I always tell you guys, when you entangle with these abusive people, what your eye will see there, only you will cry, actually. When I'm saying everything that my sister and I are doing on this channel to help people, to push the information out there, these are the things I'm talking about right now. Whereas I'm sitting down with you guys today, for the past 9 months, I have not seen or heard from my children. That is a problem. That is what these disgusting family setups, that's what they do, actually. Because even if Paulinus himself, Toro, you asked me, like, what was it that blew my mind the most? What blew my mind the most was I felt, what, Paulinus is actually unhinged, and he's a dangerous and crazy and scary character. No problem. But I felt that even if Paulinus himself does not have any sense, I felt that out of all of them in that family, at least one person should have some sense, actually. Because what is all this bullshit? Why am I, as a mother, not having access to my children? Children that I birthed, children that I raised, children that are tied to me. I can only imagine their hurt and their suffering. My baby was 2 days shy of his first birthday, and these people refused to allow this boy be weaned. There's nobody that did not try and call. The pastor, our pastor, that these people had dragged from his pulpit to be involved in this family matter, was begging them, let this baby be weaned, and they refused. So again, I don't look at Paulinus, it's Paulinus that I have a problem with, and I will not address anybody. All of them, birds as they are mad. And I want to be very, very clear on this platform that I respect none of you, because I know you are all watching, because you can't let me rest. That's what it is. Okay, since you're cuckoo here watching, I'm looking you in the face and I'm telling you, I respect none of you. And what is coming to you all for this violence you've inflicted on another human being?
3, 4.
My sister just said 4. That's true.
4
Myself,
plus,
like my family, my children, all to protect this bagger of a human being that I promise you, everything you have done to protect this man from his downfall, it will never be worth it. And I'm sure you are already seeing it. The ingratitude, the entitlement. I know you are getting it. You are getting the brunt of it. But of course, these toxic family setups, because they operate as one, everything about Paulinus, they've won it on themselves. So to them, covering the shame is more important. So no problem, cover the shame. I just, again, want to be very clear that if anything should happen to any of my children, the heaven that you think you will ever step foot in, just say goodbye to that shit. I'm dead ass on that. I don't talk about these people as I always say. So forgive me if you're seeing my emotion now, because I don't talk about them. But when I do have to talk about them, I'm sorry. Then that means his emotions are piling up that I'm letting out. So you're seeing me now and I don't feel as composed because I am triggered actually by these people. I'm very triggered. But I have never sworn for these people before because I care about my children too much. I love my children too much to swear for that fucking guy that they call their dad. Or to swear for his family. I have never done it. But in their nonsense, just let anything happen to any of my children. You guys should not ever joke with the words of a mother. Do not ever joke with what a mother can do for her children. Don't let me swear for you people. If Paulinus does not have sense, one of you better wake up with some sense and end this shit. It's not in your hands anyways. It's actually not even in your hands. Because that's another thing too. When I was preparing for this video, there was just a song that was just bubbling up. I mean, I don't even it's a song by Ebenezer Obey, but I believe it was I believe Simi did like a rendition of it. I'm going to sing, guys. Sorry, I'm going to sing. I wasn't planning to, but I have to sing. It's called Àìmásìkò dààmú ẹ̀dá o. Ọwọ́ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa ló wà. Àìmásìkò dààmú ẹ̀dá o. Ọwọ́ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa ló wà. My life is not in anybody's hands, and the lives of my children too. So that's another thing that has been holding me and helping me have my peace, which is the fact that everything is in God's hands. And there's nothing that can ever stop what is God's will for your life. So it is what it is. I've taken this season for what it is, and I'm riding it through. It's that simple.
I commend you for your candidness, for your frankness, for your authenticity, and for shattering the silence, which is what we do here on this channel. Just to sprinkle on, again, these people's conduct when you refuse to be a statistic and die there at the hands of Paulinus, especially TOLOTOLO and PEPEYE, diving into the witness box.
EYELE too, actually.
And EYELE to bear false witness. I mean, it's just, first of all, it is unheard of. It's egregious. It's taboo culturally. Senior Paulinus making, what will I even call it? I can't even say mafia, like thuggery, thug-like threats, like just, their conduct was just completely abysmal. And in their DARVOing, not only did they fire their shots at you, they they drug other members of the family into it as well.
Because they think we're like them now.
I was extremely surprised to even hear that I don't know these people, and like some of the arrows I was catching strays, and I'm like,
stray bullets everywhere.
excuse me. So like their behavior, their conduct, their everything was just completely wild to me.
Disgusting and raz.
It was very ras. It was very wolf in sheep's clothing. And you like odale when you are an enemy, a betrayer like that. You don't. The world is round. I'll just say that, and what
I know
goes
they don't
around
have
comes
rest
around.
now. I know they don't have rest, and that rest you will never find it until you right your wrong. You will never find that rest. So forget about it. Forget whatever prayer you're praying. It's not gonna happen. You will never have this rest. You will never have it. And the funny thing is, in the end, Paulinus will still show you people Pepe. If he's not already even showing you now. Now Paulinus that I know, oh God, the pepper all of you are chopping, was it worth it? Was it really? I also want to clarify something when we say raz, because my sister and I have this conversation and I think we came up with a concept. When we say raz, there's actually the raz of character. There's actually the razness of, oh, I grew up a certain way,
We don't mean class.
We don't mean class.
We
We
don't
mean
socioeconomic status. It's a razness of mind, a razness of spirit.
There are people who are raz, but their spirit is beautiful. But there's a razness of spirit, actually, razness of mind. It is repulsive. That kind of energy, like you're like, what kind of thinking is this? No amount of education can solve. No amount of exposure can solve. That kind of razness, that's the one you should be very, very afraid of. And that's the one that this family, the razness, they are also raz too, actually. They are also raz in the real sense, but we're talking about the razness of spirits. That's what we mean. I think this is a long episode, and I'm not cutting this one actually. The full episode is the one that is coming out. I'm not splitting this one in two, actually. So let's just wrap it up quickly.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any closing or final thoughts? I mean, I think you kind of already tied things off pretty well, but is there anything you want to leave our listeners and viewers with? Having talked about these people enough, any like words of encouragement you have for other people, or just closing remarks, Cha?
Yes, I do. I do have something to say. And you know what? I just realized that when I sang that song, I'll also put the translation up too. But basically, the actual translation, let me read it out, is, it is our ignorance of God's timing that bothers everybody. You have to know that the individual's destiny certainly cannot be missed. Your destiny cannot be missed. That's one thing. That's what I used to encourage myself every single day when I wake up, that all of this is in the hands of God. There's nobody that is so powerful that can change the destiny of another human being. It was always meant to be. So that is what I used to hold myself. That is what I used to hold myself in my children, and just trust and believe that all is well and will continue to be well. So I want to encourage women out there. Don't be afraid to take your power back because of how you know everything is likely to fall apart or blow up when you do. Everything that I've just said now about what happened to me, it is bad, actually. It is crazy, and it is not for the weak. That is dead ass. Don't you ever think, or don't you ever let any of this stop you from taking your power back. That part is non-negotiable. You have to. You must. Come what may, no matter what happens, no matter the blowback, no matter the disaster, but you must take your power back. It is that simple. Don't let fear ever hold you back, because at the end of the day, it is all written. Your life is in the hands of your creator. If you don't believe in God, your life, it doesn't belong to another human being. So no other human being can impact or change the day. Do you get what I mean? But when you're the only one that can impact your own life. So it is very heartbreaking to me when I see women losing their lives in these abusive relationships, because the only way another person can take your life is when you hand your life over to them. And I don't mean that in the literal sense, but I mean in you not fighting for yourself, you leave yourself open to be harmed. But the moment you actually start fighting for yourself in this world, I pity whoever actually steps in your way. Nobody can do anything to you. So start fighting for yourself, people. Don't care about what happens. As long as you advocate for yourself, you're living your most authentic life, it will all work out for you in the end. So those are just the last words that I have to say. And that's it. That's actually it. I would like to clarify again that as we have wrapped up this project, I will resume my not talking about these people because I don't care for them. So let's end it here. And so that's it. Do you have any last words, Toro?
No, not particularly. I think it's always great when I know yes, indeed, you don't talk about them, but I think it's always great, when you do, and when you do and you let it out.
And drag them,
honestly, by their eyelashes, by their pubes, by whatever,
their edges.
because really, like, what the hell?
It's appalling behavior.
So yeah, no, I definitely am fully in your corner on this corner. And it is what it is. This is just a heads up to anybody out there who is dealing with an abusive partner. Don't be, this is normal. Their family running to their aid.
They're a cabal, so it's
exactly normal. To enable them, to cover for them, to demonize you. Don't let that take the steam out of your engine.
Escape, my dear.
Keep
Escape.
moving.
Get out of there.
Yeah. Don't let the guilt of whatever bond or trauma bond that the family has tried to drag you into keep you under your abuser's thumb. Don't let them have that leverage over you, because honestly, when you leave, the unmasking is very likely to happen. So, and don't be surprised by it. It's a betrayal. It's a deep betrayal, but you'll come out on the other side.
Yeah. Get out. Get out, sis. It doesn't matter how good you feel they were to you in the past. You have to get out, because I promise you, when you now get out, they will unmask and you will see that everything they were doing was manipulation there. Most of these families are very abusive, and whatever goodwill you feel like you're enjoying with them, it is the carrot and the stick game that they are playing with you. They know you're getting the stick from the abuser, so they try and be feeding you a carrot, so that you can remain there. No, don't do it. These people are abusive themselves, and they are trying to keep you in your oppression. So get out, sis. It's not worth it. Okay? All right, y'all. Bye, guys. We'll see you later. Bye, warriors. Bye.